Her to jump on. I'm Dr. Hollen Meyer with the Wellness Doctor Network, and the Wellness Doctor Network is designed to give you one place to go to find your top-notch doctors that have a wellness mindset. And you can go to wellnessdoctornetwork.com, and doctor is DR. And I'm going to invite Dr. Chelsea Rackham right now to join us and cross your all kinds of specialties. And I'm excited to introduce you to Dr. Chelsea Rackham. You've probably seen her already before, so welcome.
Thank you.
You bet. And today we're going to talk about what is a normal hormone cycle? What does that even mean? How to track it? But most importantly, how do we plan a productive life based on our hormone cycle? And this is for the ladies, but this is also for the men too, from a standpoint of learning how to have the most productive team, whether it's in your business or even in your home life, and how to get the most out of her. All right, so, and I hope that is not taken bad, but I mean, why not talk about that too? All right, and I'm excited to go over this with you because this is not my expertise. Dr. Chelsea Rackham, she specializes in women's wellness, and she's a chiropractor. She does some functional. Rackham?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So tell us, let's just get started with what's normal. What's a normal cycle?
Well, that's a big question. Basically, it's important to realize that normal is different for everybody. And it's unfortunate because a lot of, the only education we get about our menstrual cycles is that it should be about 28 days. You're going to have a period somewhere in there. And you're going to ovulate somewhere in there as well, but you don't really need to know about that unless you're going to have a baby, basically, or unless you're preventing pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
But we can actually use the menstrual cycle as another vital sign because it tells us about the health of our hormones, which are not only important for our reproductive health, but also for our bone health and our brain health and heart health and basically every other organ system in the body. So it really is truly another vital sign that we need to be tracking, whether we are trying to get pregnant, prevent pregnancy, or, this is important for every single woman, whether you're just starting your period, whether you're entering perimenopause, it's never too early or too late. Like I said, normal is... You
mentioned perimenopause and that sort of thing. So I think it's incredibly important to know this stuff so that you know what's happening. Are you going into that, or is this just a weird cycle? And so for every phase of life for women, I think this is incredibly important. And I would probably agree with you. This is something that the education process really isn't there from the beginning, and we really only focus on it during those times. But I've learned so much from you just on how to elicit the best. For me, I'm focusing on brain function right now too. So, and I'm just really excited to go over this with you. And I do want to say that we've got some viewers on here. If you're a female and you have female friends, most of you, all of you, and even if you're a male and you have women in your life, I want you to share this because we need more education. I know I wish I knew more than I did, even as a doctor. I learned all this stuff, but it's different whenever it's you. So please share this video so that we can really it's about education, and you're going to get quite a bit on how to be more productive as well. So knowing that normal is different for everybody, what kind of markers can we look at?
So we basically, have ranges, and we want to look at the length of our cycles, but also kind of break it down into the different phases and look at the length of those phases. We want to know where we're ovulating, how long our periods are, how heavy they are, how you're feeling during the different phases of your cycle. So I really love to relate the different phases of the cycle to the 4 seasons because that's a really nice visual that people typically really like. So the first day of your menstrual cycle is going to be the first day of your period. This happens with a drop in progesterone, one of the sex hormones that we all have. So that's going to stimulate the menstrual bleed. We can compare the menstrual phase to winter. This is a time of relief and hibernation and rest. And this is a really good way to visualize the menstruation itself, because this is a time of rest. All of your sex hormones are low, progesterone's low, estrogen's low, testosterone is low. Our bodies are telling us to rest, which is really frustrating if you're one of those people that is extremely active, like I am. This is the time where I don't get a lot out of my workouts. But when you really listen to this and you take the time to rest and allow yourself to eat a little more, because that's what your body is telling you to do to make up for, the loss that you're experiencing. This is a really good time to have some self-reflection and more self-care and more alone time, and, take some hot baths. And yeah, go ahead. Oh,
I have a question.
You had yeah.
So when I do this, I'll have a question for you, but I don't want to interrupt you, but whenever you get done. So whenever you're talking about like eat a little bit more, so what exactly does that mean? Because like what I want to eat is chocolate and cake and cookies and anything sweet and wine and like all these like feel sorry for myself, feel good things that or dairy. I have a big attraction to dairy as well, and those things tear me up. Even red meat, which I know can be good too. But and a lot of times those things I know they tear me up personally, and many other people too. Like, do we indulge on that chocolate? Is that what you're telling me I have to do as my doctor?
Well, there are healthy ways to indulge, as you know. But that's your body telling you. Right. But that's your body telling you that you do need more calories. And the reason we go for those types of food is because they are very calorie dense. So the more you are eating kind of healthy calorie dense foods that are higher in healthy fats, and maybe some more complex carbs during that time to just fuel yourself. Your body is telling you to do that. And if you have, chocolate cravings or anything like that, there are healthier ways that you can get that in. Dark chocolate is good for most people. I won't say all.
Right.
But yeah, it's a time where you can indulge and kind of just fuel yourself and do what feels good to an extent, not in a way that's going to hurt you, but in a way that's going to truly, help you.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me. So as we move through the menstrual phase, this should be about 3 to 7 days. Near the end of that, your brain releases a hormone called FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone. And this hormone is going to take the follicles in your ovaries, which are basically, what the eggs turn into, and it's going to stimulate a few of them. Only one is going to become a mature egg, but it stimulates a few. So near the end of your period, FSH starts to increase, and then we're moving into our follicular phase. So this can be compared to springtime. It's a time of newness and growth and stimulation and a little bit of friskiness as well. And so FSH starts to increase, and then near the end of the follicular phase, testosterone and estrogen start to increase as well. So this phase usually lasts about 7 to 10 days. As you move through, you'll start to feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more social. Estrogen is our womanly hormone. So this is what makes our skin glow, and it's an appetite suppressant. So we look good and we're feeling good. And especially as we near the ovulation period, we're really starting to become more confident. So this is a great time to schedule any sort of social events, networking meetings. If you can, kind of schedule your work schedule around having your presentations and things like that around this time, because that's a really good time where you can put your best face forward.
Awesome. And we have some people just now joining us, quite a bit just now joining us. So the time to be more social. So we've talked about the winter phase of actually when your period starts. Your menstrual cycle starts and you start bleeding. That should last anywhere from 3 to 7 days. And then the next is springtime, where the newness and everything. And this is what you're talking about, to schedule those social events. It's a little bit of an appetite suppressant. You feel better, you feel good. And you said frisky.
I did.
So
because this is when
that just recently joined on as well, and I want to make this valuable for them too. So would this be an appropriate time to approach your wife at that time?
Yes,
we're gonna for them.
Absolutely. You're going to start to notice that your woman's a little bit more receptive to your compliments, and she's kind of checking herself out in the mirror more. If you see that, go for it. Take advantage of it. This is definitely the time to do that, because as we start to move into the ovulation period, this is where everything is at an all-time high. Another hormone is released from the pituitary gland called LH, which basically, cause the mature egg to, be released. So ovulation is compared to summer because it is short, it's energetic. Summer loving is a term for a reason. This is the time to take advantage of all of those things. You should have your confidence be at an all-time high, and guys, definitely take advantage of this with your ladies. This is the time where, this is the time for you to shine as well.
So that's on like day 14. That's about a couple weeks after this all goes down.
Yeah, typically about day 12 to 14-ish. Again, everybody's a little bit different, but this is why it's important to track and tell your man, communicate about that so that you both are kind of on that same page. But yeah, this is the time where all of your hormones are kind of soaring. You're feeling really great. If you have the flexibility to schedule presentations or talks or big events around this time, this is definitely the ideal time to do that, because you can take advantage of all that confidence that you have at that time.
On day 14, okay, I want to do it all.
Yeah, exactly. And
yes
you do.
To everything, yes to everyone, right?
Yeah. You feel like Wonder Woman.
So day 12 to 14 is kind of that summer loving, in all sense of the word.
Exactly. Typically lasts about 2 to 3 days. So after that, we start moving into the luteal phase, which is typically about 10 to 16 days. 14 is pretty ideal for a healthy luteal phase. And this can kind of be broken up into 2 phases as well. Luteal phase you can compare to fall, autumn, whatever you want to call it. The first half of the luteal phase, you're kind of still riding that high from ovulation. Estrogen and testosterone start to drop. So it's still fairly high in this phase. You're still kind of, fall is a time where you have those days that are just warm and it's like a warm hug and you still feel really good, but you can kind of feel the cold air start to creep in, but you're still pretty happy about it. And that's kind of how the first part of the luteal phase is. And then as progesterone starts to increase through the second half of the luteal phase, this is where you start to feel more introverted again. This is where you start to feel like you want to sleep more and you want to rest more, because progesterone is a natural anti-anxiety hormone. It's a natural sleep hormone. So your body is doing that for a reason, to kind of prepare you to either, mature a pregnancy or prepare for another period. So you can take advantage of this phase by, I like to schedule kind of all of my paperwork and accounting and my to-do list. Is a really great time to do all of the things that require detail and don't require a ton of socialization from other people.
Okay. When would be the best time for like self-care? Like if you're going to go to the spa or massage, when you need a little extra, not sexual attention, but more like kind of going internal, would that be this phase?
It would be probably late luteal phase or even your menstrual phase. Some people aren't. Some people are like, I don't want to leave the house during that phase. But yeah, probably late luteal.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true too. So also PMS, like this phase is also something for the men to be aware of.
Absolutely.
Or beware of.
Right. Both.
Be aware or beware, right? So, okay, good. We have Candy on here saying this is so interesting, a lot of comments. If y'all have questions during this process, please post those questions, because that's what we're here for, to answer them. And thanks everyone for joining, and those of you, we'd love for you to share this video as well. So we went over what was normal. Before we go on to the next topic, Dr. Chelsea, do you have anything to add to that before we get on to tracking?
I don't think so. I mean, I think this is just a really cool way to take advantage of what your body is doing and be more productive and use all of these tools that we have to optimize our skill sets.
I love it. And I've never heard it described quite like you described it. So I love how you connect and communicate with us. So thank you so much for that. And it helps us
Of course.
understand and relate to it. And especially the men that don't experience any of this, at least they can relate to those 4 seasons. So that's awesome. Thanks. Now, what's the best way to go about tracking this sort of thing?
Well, that's a really great question. The best way is to just kind of start at the first day of your period. Start at the first day of your menstrual cycle. Monitor how long it is. Monitor how you're feeling during that time and write it all down. I do this every month. I write it in my planner. Some people like to have a separate planner. If, other people see their planners and they're not comfortable, that's totally fine. But in my planner, I have it written on every day, how I'm feeling, where I'm at in my cycle, kind of track how long it is, how, heavy it is. If there's any, I've been doing this for a while, so I know if there's any sort of difference. And then as that ends, I know I'm moving into my follicular phase. So I know I should be kind of, ramping up, feeling more confident. So I kind of track that. You can also use, you can go based on how you feel, but you can also use your cervical fluid for this as well, because through different phases of your menstrual cycle, your cervical fluid consistency is going to be different. And a lot of times.
So most of the people listening to this, because there's a lot of men as well, explain cervical fluid.
Cervical fluid is basically fluid that is released from your uterine lining. And this is different types of fluid will be more, some fluids help you be more fertile. Some fluids help the sperm access the egg easier. Some fluids are, going to be sperm killers, or they're too viscous and the sperm can't travel to the egg. A lot of people get really uncomfortable when I start talking about this because I usually am the only person that they've heard talk about it. But it's
well,
really
that's why
important.
I wanted to ask, because a lot of people don't know. And there's so many women that are like, what? They just kind of ignore a whole lot of stuff, and men never knew this. And sometimes they don't want to know that, and that's okay too. But when we talk real talk here, we talk doctor talk, but we also want to communicate that. And we want to educate them on what this means to them. So thanks for talking about it.
Of course.
Oh, and we do have a question. So we do have a question about the cervical fluid. Is this actual discharge?
Yes, that is what the discharge is. It's kind of a nicer word for discharge.
And sometimes it's a nicer word. Sometimes people are like, I don't know. It's a funny topic, right? But this is kind of that jelly-like?
Yeah, exactly. And you'll notice that it is different from day to day. So during your follicular, obviously during your periods, you have, blood and, it's shedding your uterine lining. So that's coming out. During your follicular phase, the cervical fluid is, a little bit kind of stickier. It'll be more white in color. During your ovulation phase, the most fertile cervical fluid is going to look more egg white in consistency. It's going to be stretchy, usually kind of clear. And then as you move into your luteal phase, you'll usually have less cervical fluid, but if you do, it'll be much, much thicker and much whiter again. But yeah, this is a great way to, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go. I was just saying this is a great way to also track your different cycles, going based on how you feel, but also going based on your cervical fluid.
So that cervical fluid, you would assume that to be around day 12 and 14. Would that be like ovulation or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. If you see it, if you see that egg white consistency, that is optimal, fertile cervical fluid. But if you don't see it, it doesn't mean that you're not ovulating, and it doesn't mean that you're not fertile.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Someone else also commented that they love using an app as a tracker. They can track their emotions and feelings. And I've used an app as well. I don't always do the emotions and feelings part. Just to get a general idea of the length of my cycles, because sometimes it sounds confusing sometimes. So
yeah, it can be a lot.
To plan it with my travel.
Yeah, that's a good idea too, to plan it with your travel.
So we've talked about tracking. Anything more on tracking?
I mean, I know a lot of people also do basal body temperature for tracking. So your basal body temperature is going to spike during ovulation. During your luteal phase, your basal body temperature is going to be a little bit more elevated. This is a tough thing for some people because if you have any sort of thyroid imbalance or other things that affect your metabolism going on, it's going to skew that a little bit. So I think it's definitely a useful tool, but they're, in combination with other things.
Right. So not just doing that alone. Is this the same type of temperature checking as when people track their thyroid temperature type of thing?
Yeah. Typically when people do tracking for their menstrual cycle, it's a sublingual temperature. Mm-hmm. That's best, I guess. But
so what's optimal? Like, what is tracking? Well, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what happens to the temperature during ovulation, or what changes with the temperature?
It'll increase a little bit during ovulation. You'll get a little bit of a spike. So, I mean, this also requires knowing what your normal is. So it does take a couple cycles to get a baseline. But yeah, you will see a little bit of a spike during ovulation, and then it'll go down in your luteal phase, but kind of increase as your luteal phase goes on, as your progesterone gets higher, because your progesterone is a basal body stimulator as well. So, I mean, it's not going to be like 101. It'll be like maybe 99 during ovulation and, 98.8 during your luteal phase. But I mean, it all depends on you and what your normal is.
That sounds like a lot more work.
It's a lot of work.
To do consistently. So I know we've talked about it over our conversation, but if we could just recap on knowing what normal is, knowing how to track your menstrual cycles, and then I know we've talked about it, but can we kind of do a recap on the most productive part of our monthly cycles and how we can plan our productivity?
Absolutely. So you're going to feel the most productive, the most social during your late follicular to ovulation phase. Ovulation is the peak.
And those days what?
Oh, sorry. That'll be let's say your period's 7 days. It'll be day 7 to 14 are kind of your best days for doing anything that requires you to, have a little bit more confidence or more social skills, I guess.
So even if your cycles are 3 days, is it still day 7 through 14?
No, I mean, that's just an average. It'll be kind of the follicular phase starts at the end, when your period is over. So it'll take a few days for that to start to ramp up. So if your period's 3 days, probably day 5 to whenever you start.
5 to 12 or something like that?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And the reason we say productive, especially during this time leading up to the following few days as well, most productive in your social things, most productive if you have a meeting or a social event or a speaking engagement, most productive if you're planning a party, most productive also sexually.
Yep. And I mean, not to discount the
I hope my husband's listening to this.
Yeah, mine will. I know you will.
We talked about communication as well, and to communicate with your spouse. So we'll communicate on this.
Very important. But not to discount the luteal phase as being productive either. It's just a different type of being productive. It's the type where you want to sit in your office and catch up on things you've been avoiding during your follicular phase because you want to be out there and seeing people and talking and whatever. So it's productive too. It's just in a different way.
And you're talking about the fall stage.
Exactly. Yes. Kind of more introspective.
Again.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And we have someone saying, oh man, I've totally felt this during the cycle. So interesting. It's always good whenever you're feeling things happening, whenever you have a doctor saying it's because of X, Y, and Z, and it's okay, it's normal. Take advantage of feeling this way whenever you're feeling a little bit more, internal, just wanting to go inside and being internal a little bit during the fall toward the end of the whole entire cycle and do paperwork, do your accounting, all of that fun stuff.
Right.
But using each phase of the cycle to be as productive as you can.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to touch on as well, because either a doctor will tell you things are normal when they're not normal, or they won't normalize it. So they'll start to seed doubt in your mind, like, gosh, should I be feeling this way? But knowing, kind of what your hormones are doing and how you should feel during the phases of your cycle gives you ammunition to be able to then go to a healthcare provider and be like, I feel different and I know this isn't normal. So then a doctor can't dismiss you, or isn't more likely to dismiss you, or, try to tell you that what you're experiencing isn't real.
I love that. And I think so often doctors do dismiss a lot of things. Sometimes they make things scarier than they are, but if you can track and know you're normal, and I just think there's so much value not only to you as the patient, but also it's very helpful for the doctors to know that you're in tune with your body and they can trust what you're saying as well. I think that is just so awesome. So I just want to be sure to share, let you guys know that please share this video if you like it. Give us some hearts. Give Dr. Chelsea some hearts if you want to know more, or if you like her, give her a heart. Dang it. I love her. I'm going to heart it like crazy whenever I want to get. So yeah, share this with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your spouse, and I hope your bosses are listening to it as well. Share it with your team. So thank you so much for joining us. Any final words, or are we good to go?
I think we're good to go. We covered everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this, and so thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Chelsea Rackham. She is actually my doctor, which is why I'm so excited to share it with you. I want to share with you the most amazing doctors that I can find in the DFW area right now. We have a nationwide vision, but stay tuned. Thank you, Dr. Rackham.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.